Okay, I need to back up. You said could or couldn't be.
I'm saying
Do you
that
believe there is a shred of scientific evidence that there is harm from the vaccine?
I haven't seen that evidence yet. What I've seen is the new CDC number is going to be 1 in every 65 boys are going to be on the autistic spectrum. Okay? And I think that we need to look at other parts of vaccinations. We've been focused on mercury. We're not focused enough on the aluminum that's in the vaccinations. We're not focused enough on getting 2 live virus bacteria vaccinations simultaneously when it's given. We're not focusing on the schedule of vaccinations enough. I don't believe there's enough evidence to trace the thimerosal, the mercury, to autism, but I think there's a lot of other things within the vaccinations we're not looking carefully at.
So even though you haven't seen the evidence, you think it might be there?
I think there's not enough research that has gone into it. Tony, this is autism and other developmental disorders are the single greatest health crisis this country is facing. It really is. Bigger than anything you can think of. We're creating a generation of autistic zombies. I mean, it's remarkable what's out there. No one isn't affected by this. The research is focused primarily on thimerosal. Okay? The research that has come back on the thimerosal has shown that there's not a linkage. I have yet to see research done on the aluminum. I've yet to see research done on the multiple live virus vaccinations that are out there. I've yet to see research done on the clustering of vaccinations that are out there. We haven't studied this enough.
But from what from what I've read, the vast majority of scientists think that this is tantamount to fanning hysteria, even suggesting the notion that there could be harm from vaccinations.
Again, they're looking at the thimerosal issue. They're looking at the mercury issue. Okay? No, you tell me one study out there. You find me one study that's looked at the aluminum issue out there. It hasn't existed. I'm not here to tell you you vaccinate your child is going to cause autism. I don't know. There hasn't been enough research on it, but I know that there are so many environmental insults that a child faces. I mean, something is happening in that traditionally 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, a child could be born with ADD. Today that ADD is manifesting itself somehow as the same gene in some extensive, deep-rooted autism. Why is that? Because our environment has regressed quicker than the little children's bodies can evolve. Okay? Why that's caused, I don't know. I truly don't know. I just know there is such a regression in our environment here that there is something that's going on that's creating a major health crisis that, and I'm not a doctor, that has not been studied. Nearly enough. We studied thimerosal. That's all that's really been studied is the mercury issue within the vaccinations.
Sorry, I keep cutting off.
No, that's okay. But when you're talking about the vaccinations, because I know with my own son, a lot of times doesn't it depend on the availability? You may ask for something to be separated out, but won't it be dependent on whether your doctor...
And I would say go to a different doctor.
Mm-hmm. Well, can't they already do that? Can't I decide I don't like my pediatrician, so maybe I'll go find another one that's more in line with what I believe? I mean, do you really need legislation?
I'm not giving legislation to change, to say don't vaccinate. I want to be careful about that.
Right.
I'm not
no, I
changing
understand that.
What I'm saying is parents, I want parents to have a Bill of Rights. That you who are, a professional, you who are in the media business, you who've seen all the articles and knows to go in and ask a question. Imagine someone is just going into a clinic with no insurance. They don't know what question to ask. Boom. Next thing you know, the kid gets 9 shots in one day. Right? So I don't think you're a very good, stereotype of a person to look at as it relates to this. And I'm trying to take this. I really am. I'm not a doctor, so be very careful with this. I'm trying to look at it from a standpoint of common sense. Common sense tells me a 2-month-old child does not need a vaccination for a sexually transmitted disease. Common sense tells me if there's a cluster of vaccinations and you can look at it and then come back a month later and do the next one and do one a month later after you've seen your child and do the next one, I'm really looking at it from common sense. If I try to take science into it, it's not an argument I can win right now.
But doesn't the state's own policy, because I know when my son was born, we got cards from the Department of Health every few months, have you got your vaccination? Has he, have you reported X, Y, and Z? I mean, the state seems to also be encouraging this kind of, at this stage.
Because they know that that's when you, as a parent, you are most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because all the scientists say these things are necessary.
But again,
You say you don't want to get into the science,
That's why I don't
but
want
the science is clear.
But Tony, this is a really fascinating debate to have, okay? The science is clear that the mercury or that the aerosol in the vaccination does not cause autism. That's where the science has clarity. That's it. The science doesn't have clarity beyond that. That's all they've looked at. And I'm not trying, but by staying away from the science, again, I will debate any pediatrician in the world without being a doctor and have them convince me that a 2-month-old needs to have a vaccination for hepatitis B.
If the science is an issue, why not give UF the task of doing research on this instead of fanning
We
the
already-
fears of parents who don't
There's a few
understand the
things.
science?
We've actually tried to do that from the Autism Task Force. I don't think I'm fanning the flame. I think quite the opposite. I think if parents, the single biggest decision they're going to make for their child, are more comfortable with the decision, they'll do it. Right? How many parents, there's something called the Church of Conventional Wisdom out there on the internet. Okay? You can go out and using this church, you can join this church and get a religious exemption so you don't have to vaccinate your child. Because maybe there's a lot of misinformation out there. But if I'm doing it in a way that's totally responsible, okay, that says, okay, I'm going to give this shot to my child, I'm going to watch him for 30 days. I'm going to go in and I'm going to give this shot to my child again after watching him for 30 days. At least now I'm probably more likely to do it than because I'm more in control of it than just walking into a pediatrician and getting 9 shots in one day.
So basically, if I can boil this down, what you're basically saying is you're not questioning the science that's out there, what you're questioning is the science that's not out there. In the sense that you haven't looked at these other components, and the question that you want to raise is, do you really need to bombard a child at that age with all these
Shots.
the vaccinations, rather than just spreading them out over a period of time?
Right, and that is precisely what it is. But I also think we need to look at other areas. We need to look at nutrition. I mean, we're not looking at all the preservatives that are in the food. I mean, everyone here is, ask your parents, did they go out and buy a fresh loaf of bread every day? What do? We go to Publix and buy a loaf of bread that's 2 weeks on the shelves. I mean, what's in that is who knows? Remember at the back of labels it always says 1% other? Right? I mean,
Well, that other is what makes it taste good.
the other is what makes it taste good.
There's no high fructose corn syrup in your house.
No, my kids are on very, very strict gluten-free, casein-free diets. There's no wheat, barley, oats, and dairy in my house.
How old are your kids?
8, 6, 3, and 2.
They'll grow up.
I think it's like growing up in a culture.
They're teenagers.
And you're probably right. So to that point, just to answer your question, I think it was said really right. I know where the research is, I get it, but I know where the research isn't, and I'm not trying to fan any flames. I'm just trying to give the parents. If I was trying to fan flames, I would try to do a moral opt-out from the vaccinations, which, by the way, the governor supports. So I would try to do that. What I'm trying to do is to give the parents a Bill of Rights to have a more in-depth consultation.